Welcome to the Mindful Practice Podcast, a space for physicians navigating burnout, identity shifts, and career change without pressure or judgment. I'm your host, Dr. Bertina Hooks, a board-certified internal medicine physician, coach, and writer. Here we talk honestly about what it means to build a sustainable career and a life beyond medicine and survival. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Mindful Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bertina Hooks, a physician, entrepreneur, speaker, coach, and author of the forthcoming memoir, From Fire to Freedom, a memoir of transformation, renewal, and resilience. Today's episode is part of our ongoing conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion in medicine. But this episode is also deeply personal. Today, I'm spotlighting my own book and sharing more about why I wrote it, what readers will discover inside of it, and why my story belongs in the larger conversation about equity, disability, identity, resilience, and humanity in healthcare. When people hear the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, they often immediately think about race and gender. Those are critically important parts of the conversation. But DEI in medicine is also about disability. It is about socioeconomic background. It is about who receives compensation and who is judged. It is about whose pain is believed. It is about whose symptoms are taken seriously. It is about who is allowed to be vulnerable. And it is about whether the healthcare system can recognize the full humanity of the person standing or sitting in front of it. That person may be a patient. That person may also be a physician. In my life, I have been both. From Fire to Freedom is the story of my transformation. It is the story of a Black woman who entered medicine determined to heal others. It is the story of a physician who built a career, raised a daughter, endured personal and professional challenges, survived loss, and continued carrying responsibilities even when the weight became almost unbearable. And ultimately, it is the story of what happened when the physician becomes the patient. In December 2022, I underwent a right below the knee amputation. That single sentence sounds very clinical. It sounds like something that may appear in a medical record, but the medical record cannot fully explain what it means to lose a limb. It cannot tell you what it feels like to wake up and realize that your body has been permanently changed. It cannot tell you what happens to your identity when you have spent your life being the one who cares for everyone else and suddenly you need help. It cannot describe the grief, the fear, the anger, the questions, the physical pain, or the long process of learning to trust your body again. That is the space where this memoir lives. It lives between the clinical documentation and the human experience. As physicians, we are trained to observe illness. We are trained to diagnose it. We are trained to develop treatment plans. We are trained to move efficiently from one case to the next. But becoming a patient taught me that there is a difference between understanding a medical condition and understanding what it costs a patient to live through it. A diagnosis does not remain inside the exam room. It follows the patient home. It affects how they work, how they parent, how they sleep, how they move, how they perceive themselves, and how others perceive them. And most importantly, how safely can they move through the world? That experience changed the way I think about medicine. It changed the way I think about disability. And it changed the way I think about equity. I spent 15 years training my hands to save others' lives. I never imagined I would wake up one morning missing part of my own body. I've been a physician giving orders and the patient fighting for survival. I stood in courtrooms pleading for my daughter's life and sat in hospital beds grieving the life I thought I had. I faced a broken marriage, a broken system, and a body that was broken here. But I'm still here. Not because the fire didn't burn, but because I learned that the fire was never meant to destroy me. It was meant to reveal me. From Fire to Freedom is not a story about what I lost. It is about a story about what I found. My voice, my purpose, my sovereignty. I am Dr. Bertina Hooks, and I wrote this book for every person who has wondered whether healing is still possible. It is. I am living proof. From Fire to Freedom, a memoir of transformation, renewal, and resilience. Available September 23rd, 2026 through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Ingram Spark, audio book platforms, and my website. This is more than my story. It's an invitation to rise. Disability inclusion is often treated as an optional extension of DEI rather than an essential part of it. Healthcare institutions may talk about racial representation, gender equity, and cultural competency while failing to address the physical accessibility, ableism, disability bias, or the experience of physicians and other healthcare professionals who live with disabilities. Sometimes disability is discussed only as a clinical outcome, as something that happened to a patient. But people with disabilities are not merely outcomes. We are physicians, we are executives, we are parents, we are entrepreneurs, we are scholars, leaders, patients. We are whole human beings. Disability is part of human diversity, and disability is not inability. One of the most difficult lessons in my journey was realizing that achievement does not protect you from being dismissed. Credentials do not protect you from bias. A medical degree does not prevent someone from making assumptions about your body, your capabilities, or your future. And being a physician does not guarantee that you will always be heard when you become a patient. That realization was painful, but it was also clarifying. It helped me see how easily healthcare professionals can unintentionally reduce a person to a diagnosis, a complication, a number, a body part, or a perceived limitation. It helped me understand the profound importance of listening. Not listening merely to prepare the next question, not listening merely to complete the documentation, but listening to understand what the patient is experiencing and what matters most to them. My memoir also explores the pressure of being placed on women, especially women of color, to be strong at all times. Strength can be celebrated, but strength can also become a trap. When everyone expects you to be strong, people may stop asking you whether you're tired. They may stop noticing when you are hurting. They may assume that because you've survived before, you can continue surviving without support. I carried that expectation into medicine. I carried it into motherhood. I carried it into my relationships. I carried it into leadership, and I carried it through illness. But healing required something different. Healing required me to acknowledge that I was human. It required me to receive help. It required me to rest. It required me to grieve. It required me to stop measuring my worth by how much pain I could tolerate or how much work I could complete while suffering. That lesson is relevant far beyond my personal experience. Medicine has long rewarded self-sacrifice. Physicians are often expected to work through exhaustion, grief, illness, pregnancy, disability, and family crises. We are taught to keep going. We are taught not to inconvenience the system. We are taught that everyone else's needs come first. But a healthcare system that depends on the depletion of its workforce is not sustainable, and it's not humane.
I remember sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot, unable to make myself walk inside. That's the moment I realized burnout wasn't the problem. It was the symptom. Medical school taught us how to practice medicine. Nobody taught us how to intentionally design a career or a life that actually fits who we've become. That realization led me to build a simple framework. 5 steps I now call the 5 R's that took me from being an overwhelmed and uncertain physician to a clear, confident, and financially resistant one. I've walked this path myself, and I've now guided other physicians through it too. Physicians who didn't think there was a way out. If you're a physician who knows something has to change, I'm teaching this entire framework live and completely free. Go to the website below to save and reserve your seat.
My story is not simply about surviving an amputation. It's about confronting every structure, belief, relationship, and expectation that told me that my life had to become smaller. After losing my leg, I had to decide whether I would see myself as broken or transformed. That decision was not made once. It was made repeatedly during rehabilitation, during moments of pain, during professional transitions, during setbacks, during the process of learning to walk again and to drive again, during the process of allowing myself to dream again. Freedom did not mean pretending the fire never happened. Freedom meant refusing to remain inside it. That is why the title is From Fire to Freedom. The fire represents the experiences that tested me: illness, loss, trauma, discrimination, professional burnout, personal disappointment, physical transformation, and the moments when the life I had built no longer felt sustainable. But the freedom represents what came after. Freedom from the belief that my value was determined by my productivity. Freedom from relationships and environments that required me to abandon myself. Freedom to build a career aligned with my purpose. Freedom to create. Freedom to love. Freedom to rest. Freedom to tell the truth about what happened to me. And freedom to use my story to help someone else. This memoir is also about reinvention. Before my amputation, I understood reinvention primarily as a professional concept. You change jobs, you change industries, you develop a new skill, you created other sources of income. But true reinvention is deeper than changing what you do. It requires examining who you believe you are. For years, so much of my identity was connected to being a physician, a provider, a mother, a leader, and the person other people could depend on. After my amputation, I had to ask, who am I when I cannot perform in the same way? Who am I when I need care? Who am I when my body changes? Who am I when other people can see my vulnerability? And can I still believe that I am worthy, powerful, beautiful, capable, and whole? The answer is yes. But arriving at that answer required a journey. That journey also gave birth to a larger mission. My memoir tells the story, but Pinnacle Business Academy grew from the lessons of that story. Through Pinnacle Business Academy, I help physicians and other professionals recognize when the life or career they have built no longer reflects who they have become. Some are burned out. Some feel trapped. Some have achieved everything they were told to achieve and still feel unfulfilled. Some know they need a change, but cannot see what comes next. Others have dreams they have postponed for years because they were busy meeting everyone else's expectations. My work is designed to help people create clarity, rediscover their purpose, identify new pathways, and build lives that do not require them to sacrifice their health or identity in order to succeed. Because sometimes the most courageous decision is not to keep enduring. Sometimes the most courageous decision is to change. The Mindful Practice podcast is another extension of that mission. This platform allows us to have honest conversations about medicine, leadership, disability, burnout, entrepreneurship, equity, reinvention, and the human experiences that are often hidden behind professional titles. The name Mindful Practice is intentional. It asks us to practice medicine with awareness, to lead with awareness, to build businesses with awareness, to make decisions with awareness, and to remain aware of the person behind the title, the diagnosis, the credential, or the role. When I wrote From Fire to Freedom, I did not want to create a story that ended with something terrible happened, but I survived. Survival matters, but I wanted to go further. I wanted to ask, what can be built from the ashes? What happens when survival becomes transformation? What happens when the thing that appeared to end your life as you knew it becomes the beginning of a life that is more honest, more intentional, and more aligned? This is not a story about returning to who I was before. I'm not trying to return to the woman I was before the amputation. I honor her. I appreciate what she carried. I respect everything she accomplished. But I am becoming someone new, someone who protects her health, someone who recognizes that rest is not weakness, someone who understands that she does not have to earn love through overgiving, someone who can be both powerful and vulnerable at the same time, someone who knows that a changed body can still carry an extraordinary future.
What if the career you work so hard to build isn't the career you have to keep forever? If you're a physician feeling trapped, not because you're not skilled or dedicated, but because no one ever taught you there were other paths, you're not alone and you're not stuck. I'm Dr. Bertina Hooks, and I created the Phoenix Physician Freedom Blueprint, a 5-step framework physicians are using right now to move from burnout to clarity, purpose, and financial freedom. This isn't a theory. It's the exact roadmap I use to rebuild my own career. And it's already working for physicians who felt exactly like you do right now. Clarity, confidence, financial resilience. Join me live for free, and I'll walk you through the entire framework. Register now at the website listed below for the free live masterclass.
For healthcare professionals listening today, I hope this story challenges you to think differently about your patients. Before labeling someone as non-compliant, ask what obstacles they are facing. Before assuming a patient lacks motivation, ask whether they have the resources, support, transportation, accessibility, safety, or information required to follow the plan. Before discussing a life-changing procedure in purely clinical terms, remember that the patient will have to live with that decision long after you leave the room. And before assuming that a physician or colleague with a disability is less capable, ask whether the real limitation is the person or the environment that has failed to become inclusive. For patients listening today, I hope this book reminds you that your voice matters. You deserve to understand your care. You deserve to participate in decisions about your body. You deserve to ask questions. You deserve to request another opinion. You deserve to be treated as a partner, not a problem. And your life is not over because your body, health, career, or circumstances have changed. For anyone standing in the middle of their own fire, I want you to know this. You do not have to understand the entire journey today. You do not have to know exactly what your life will look like on the other side. You are allowed to grieve what was lost. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to ask for help. But please do not confuse this chapter with the conclusion of your story. There still may be purpose ahead of you. There still may be joy ahead of you. There may be love ahead of you. There may still be opportunities that you cannot yet see. And there may be a vision of freedom that would have never been possible if you had remained who everyone expected you to be. From Fire to Freedom, a memoir of transformation, renewal, and resilience is my story. But I believe its message belongs to anyone who has ever had to rebuild, anyone who has ever had to begin again, anyone who's ever wondered whether life could still be meaningful after loss, anyone who survived an experience that changed them permanently, and anyone who is ready to stop simply enduring life and begin creating one that feels like freedom. The book is scheduled for release September 23rd, 2026. I invite you to follow my platforms and the Mindful Practice podcast for pre-order announcements, excerpts, behind-the-scenes conversations, launch events, and opportunities to join the community surrounding the book. You can also learn more about Pinnacle Business Academy and the programs I've created to help physicians and professionals move from burnout and uncertainty towards clarity, reinvention, and freedom. Before we close, I want to leave you with this. The fire may change you. It may expose what is unsustainable. It may remove what you thought you could not ever live without. It may force you to confront truths you spent years avoiding. But the fire does not get to decide who you become. You do. And sometimes what feels like the end is actually an invitation to heal, to rebuild, to rise, and to become free. Thank you for joining me for this deeply personal episode of the Mindful Practice Podcast. Please subscribe, share this episode with someone who may need it, and leave a review wherever you listen. Until next time, continuing practicing medicine, leadership, and life with intention, compassion, courage, and mindfulness. I'm Dr. Bertina Hooks, and this is the Mindful Practice Podcast. Until next time.
As I reflect on my own journey, I'm also reminded that some stories take years before you fully understand why you had to live them before you could tell them. This season has been especially meaningful for me because I recently signed a publishing contract for my upcoming memoir, Fire to Freedom, a journey of transformation, renewal, and resilience. In many ways, this book captures not only moments like the ones I shared today, but the deeper journey of resilience, identity, healing, and becoming through personal adversity, professional growth, and life transitions that shaped who I am today. I will be sharing more in the months ahead as we move toward the book's release. But I wanted to mention it here because this story and many others live within those pages. Sometimes the chapters we survive quietly become the chapters we are later called to share. And if my story helps someone else believe that adversity does not disqualify purpose, then every chapter has meaning.
Thank you for listening to the Mindful Practice Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, you can find free burnout and career clarity resources at pinnaclebusinessacademy.org. And if this podcast supported you, please consider subscribing or sharing it with a colleague who might need it. Remember, you are more than your white coat. You are not broken, and you are allowed to evolve. Until next time, take care of yourself, not just your role.